Elon Musk now has access to a payment system within the Treasury Department containing the personal data of millions of Americans. The Department of Efficiency gained control of what's called the Bureau of Fiscal Service. This comes as the Doge task force sweeps through the federal bureaucracy, taking aim at programs and employees, one agency at a time. So let's start here. What is the Bureau of Fiscal Service? It's a unit within the Treasury Department that acts as the federal government's checkbook. It controls the flow of nearly 90% of all federal payments, including Social Security checks, IRS tax refunds, and veterans benefits. In fiscal year 2023, the division gave out more than 1 billion payments totaling over $5 trillion, collected more than $5 trillion in federal revenue, and managed an average daily cash flow of more than $200 billion. A lot of money here. Let's bring in CBS News MoneyWatch correspondent Kelly O'Grady. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on the stream today. Can you tell us more about why Elon Musk's access to this payment system is raising a lot of alarm?
Yeah, so it's kind of two areas. The first, I would say, is there is a concern that this Doge investigation could lead to the federal government stopping some of these very big payment systems and services. So think things like Social Security and Medicaid. The other concern that people have is just the access to such sensitive personal information. And so that would be things like your social security number, your bank information, right? If you do direct deposit when you get your tax refund check in a couple of months. I will note that CBS News obtained a letter that says the access that Doge was granted was essentially read-only. And it's very, very similar to when these agencies go through an audit for their systems and their practices and security and all of that. So the pushback is that these concerns that I just mentioned, they aren't really any different than other agencies that have had this type of access in the past. But yes, I think there's just a little bit of concern because Doge is so new, this process is new, but it is very similar to audit access, we are learning.
Okay. Kelly, let's talk about President Trump's tariffs on China because it could make cheap fast fashion brands like Temu and also Shein a little bit pricier. So is this the end of that massive haul that some Americans really enjoy buying? Because, again, it's really cheap.
Well, you know, it might be. I still think you'll probably see those massive hauls. They just might be a little bit more expensive. So President Trump closed what they call a loophole. It was called de minimis. And this is actually nearly a century-old loophole. And it allowed packages that were under the value of $800, so that would be a lot of items from Temu and Shein, to enter the United States duty-free. And so there would be no fees or taxes or paid on that coming into the U.S. So now that is closed, things would, in theory, cost more because when you're buying all of your packages and you're getting it shipped to your house, you would have to assume that the company is going to pass some of that cost on to you, the consumer. Now, the reason why they're doing this is, one, there are so many packages coming in that is a good way to find some extra money, but also there's a concern about fentanyl flowing in, fraudulent goods, that there's so many of these packages coming in that there's just not enough resources to inspect everyone. So it's a little bit of a monetary, but also a security piece.
Never even thought of the security angle of that. And finally, Kelly, we want to ask you about Google. The company is backpedaling on its pledge not to use artificial intelligence for weapons or surveillance. Do we know what's driving this move?
Well, you know, I think it's mainly that this is what a lot of other companies are doing. I'm just going to read you a quote from their original AI principles and then sort of highlight how it's differently. So originally, Google said that it would explicitly not pursue AI that could be used for applications such as, quote, weapons or other technologies whose principal purpose or implementation is to cause and directly facilitate injury to people. This was part of their original ethical code. And then yesterday, they rolled that back and said, well, this is important for different companies and countries that support democracy to work together for a national security perspective. You know, there's a lot of news going on in the world, but I really think this is important to highlight because you do have China, who is making these advancements in AI that could help in a term defense technology, weaponry. And so there is an argument to be made that having our best companies working on this type of thing, including Google, is important. But there is that other element that when you have these companies developing these technologies that lead to defense contracts, more coming in, there is, there is a reason to question that type of activity.
Okay, Kelly O'Grady, as always, thank you so much for your time.